C'est ma faute. Oui. Oui, on est presque prêt.
Désolé.
On est un peu
Désorganisé.
OK. Bon.
Oh, webcast for November 8, 2019. Hello and welcome to our webcast. My name is Christian Aubry and this is Amy Asmo, the director of Toujours Vivant, and the guilty guy here is Christian Aubry. Also joining us, Taylor over here, okay? Our policy analysis and outreach coordinator. Toujours Vivant and Not Dead Yet is a non-religion organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. We believe that the choice to die is not free as long as old, ill, and disabled people don't have a free choice to where and how they live, and that must change. Today's topics. Fourth report from Quebec's Commission of End-of-Life Care. Second subject is man says a psychologist encouraged him to euthanize his wife, and encourage is not the real word.
Yeah.
No.
He suggested that we don't know if it's a she or a he, but the psychologist suggested.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the fourth report from Quebec's Commission on End-of-Life Care. On October 2nd, and so that was a little over a month ago, Quebec's Commission on End-of-Life Care released its fourth report for the period of April 1st, 2018 to March 31st of 2019. The Commission reported a substantial increase in the number of euthanasia over the previous years.
That's the least that we could say.
Yeah, let's putting it mildly. 1,331 euthanasia were performed this year. Added to the 1,630 asterisk for the 28 months from December 2015 to March 2018, this brings the total to 2,909 euthanasia in Quebec since the program began. We will talk about in a few minutes why these numbers don't add up, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Continuous palliative sedations were performed on 1,243 people during the reporting period, added to the 1,704 continuous palliative sedations performed during the 28 months from December 2015 to March 2018. This brings the total to 2,947. Euthanasia and CPS each account for 1.9% of deaths in Quebec. That's almost 2%. During the reporting period, for a total of nearly 4% of all deaths in the province. And okay, the asterisk.
So my little prediction.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the little prediction I was trying to hash out earlier was a bit off. When we calculated these stats with a much earlier report, we figured that the total deaths that Belgium had reached after 9 years, which was about 2% of deaths, would be what Quebec reached after about 3. And if you count euthanasia, that's true. But if you count euthanasia plus CPS, that prediction has doubled. It's 4%.
Yes. Yep.
So we accomplish, if it's a right word, which I think it's not, we accomplished the double of Belgium in a third of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What efficiency.
Woohoo! Great.
Okay. Something to be so proud of. No.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Nothing to be proud of.
Okay. So I mentioned an asterisk earlier. As explained in footnote 19 on page 27, 1,630 euthanasia deaths from the previous 28 months is actually a corrected total from the Commission's summary report issued last spring. Apparently, quote, 2 MAID reported by an institution as having been administered were not administered.
Okay.
So what happened? Did the people not die?
Did they die of other causes? Are they still alive?
So we just have to remember that we are playing now with a game of death or like life thing.
Life and death, yep.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened to those people.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so the exact number of deaths is hard to pin down from this report. On pages 3, 12, 27, footnote 19, 37, and 38, the report says, quote, 1,279 people received MAID between April 1st, 2018 and March 31st, 2019. Okay, all those different references. This figure, when added to the 1630 from the previous period, gives the reported total of 2,909. But on page 23, the report says, quote, according to reports from institutions, 1,937 requests were made between April 1st and March 31st. And of these, 1,271 were administered and 672 were not administered. Now, that 1,271 figure added to the 60 euthanasia performed by doctors outside of institutional settings and reported by the Collège des Médecins du Québec gives a total of 1,331 euthanasia, which is also reported on page 23, and that figure is used multiple times, the 1,271 and the 1,331. And maybe you've noticed that 1,937 minus 672 does not equal 1,271, but rather 1,265. The 6 missing people are accounted for in the note in figure 3.17, which does not show the outcome of the 6 euthanasia requests in Region 10. The Commission explains, quote, in order to respect the rules of confidentiality and because the risk of identification related to the disclosure of a small number of individuals, the exact distribution of the euthanasia administered and not administered could not be provided. So, okay, we've accounted for those 6 people, but the 60 euthanasia reported by the Collège des Médecins du Québec.
If they were accountant, we fired them.
Right. And if you think we're being nitpicky, just remember that euthanasia laws are supposed to impose stringent limits that are scrupulously monitored and enforced. And that, of course, is a quote from what? The Carter decision. Okay, so we don't know how many euthanasia deaths there were. This year, the Commission received 1,400 euthanasia reports, some of which document euthanasia performed before the reporting period. So they're still getting ones from last year, the year before. The Commission notes that 86 forms that came in this year were received more than 6 months after administration of medical assistance in dying, and some of them more than a year later. Wow. These are forms that are supposed to arrive 10 days after it happened. Yes. Is more than a year.
Yeah, a little late, 1.5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Overdue.
No problem.
No problem.
A few things to note about the Commission's process. The Commission can only evaluate compliance with the law. It has no influence over other aspects of medical practice, even if they could affect euthanasia. So, for example, if a doctor makes a mistaken diagnosis or in the cause of a decline in capacity, that would probably fall outside the Commission's area of responsibility.
Yeah, you receive a false diagnosis of cancer,
Right.
and you decide to be euthanized, and oops, a month later the letter came back that you had not cancer.
Right. Or if
Oh.
a doctor, if you're having a cognitive decline and a doctor says, oh, you've got Alzheimer's disease, but it turns out you're actually having a reaction to a medication. You stop taking the medication and everything's all better.
Yeah.
Whoops. Oops.
And in a couple weeks, I may have a story to tell you about someone who accessed life-ending measures without a diagnosis even.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Second note on the Commission's process. 2/3 of the commissioners must agree that a violation has occurred for a finding of noncompliance to be made. So 51% not good enough. Such cases are referred to the institution's Council of Physicians, Dentists, and Pharmacists, CPDP, and the Collège des Médecins du Québec. There is no remedy for the loved ones of ineligible people who are euthanized or where safeguards
Just
are
too bad.
ignored.
Just
Too
too
bad,
bad.
so sad. There's nothing they can do for you if your loved one was euthanized wrongly.
Yeah.
This year, the Commission introduced a new procedure for evaluating reports in response to the growing number of euthanasia. Because
Where have we seen that?
yeah, exactly. Declarations are examined by a subgroup, including at least 3 commissioners. If all group members agree that the eligibility criteria were met and the safeguards were complied with, the case is recommended for approval by the whole commission. If there is disagreement in the small group, the case is referred to the full commission for further discussion. So basically, any given case of euthanasia is only reviewed by 3 people, unless there's a problem. Unless somebody decides there's a problem.
You know why they do that? Because last year they have some difficulty to look at every case.
Right.
So they just changed their way to look at it, so they could
Right.
at least try to get to everybody.
Right. And so what's going to happen now, next year or the year after, only 1 commissioner is going to look at each report.
Yeah, because this year they are already late, I think.
Yeah. The commission took a first look at 1,384 reports and needed more information or had questions on 31% of those, or 430. The commission found that 96% of the 1,354 cases it ruled on did comply with the law, but it could not reach a decision on 41 cases, or 3%, because they didn't get the information they requested from the doctor.
Oops.
41
Again.
situations where the doctor didn't
File the
supply
report.
the information they requested. That's kind of weird.
And it's really basic what they have to do. Very, very basic.
Yeah, it's yeah. The commission found that 13 euthanasia, or 1%, did not comply with the law. 4 people were not eligible. 3 people did not have a serious and incurable illness. They all had broken hips.
Oops.
That just seems odd.
You know,
And
you're old, you broke your lips. Maybe you should, you know. I saw a case like that with my father. It's awful.
Yeah, he had his dad had a broken pelvis, And the doctor was saying, well, you should probably sign a do not resuscitate order.
Yeah. And probably if he had done that, he was dead from now. But since then, he lived at almost 5 years
5
now.
years, yeah.
So he had missed 5 years of his life if he just signed this damn paper.
Right. It just seems a little odd.
Wow.
All of a sudden, 3 people in the same year come up with broken hips. That just seems odd.
But also, what is...
Go ahead.
Sorry. What's recovery for a broken hip like? You probably could trace all that back to the same professional, but I imagine you're using things like mobility devices and help around the house.
Yep.
I see a very obvious disability connection there.
Yeah, and it is hard to recover from a broken hip. And yes, people do get pneumonia if they stay in the hospital and aren't moving around after getting a broken hip. But there's just something a little fishy about all of a sudden 3 people with broken hips.
Yeah.
Okay. In one person, the medical insurance card had expired, and I was joking with Christian because
my card was expired.
His card expired. I said, "Don't worry, dear. You can still have medical assistance in dying." Except I said it in French. Okay. In 9 cases, the safeguards were violated. The second doctor examined the person before euthanasia request was signed in 5 cases. So they're moving right along with the procedure before the actual request is even signed. The doctor did not conduct the interviews to ensure the request was informed, that the person's suffering persisted, and they still wanted euthanasia. And in 2 cases, the physician who administered medical assistance in dying met the person only on the day of the euthanasia.
Want to die? Okay. Lay down here.
Stringent limits.
Yeah.
Scrupulously enforced.
Right.
One request form was witnessed by a non-qualified person.
And how was that person unqualified? Were they too young? Were they somebody who could inherit? No. Do they even say, whether they say or not? I'm glad this was caught.
It doesn't say. It says only that they were not a medical professional. So it could have been a secretary, or as you say, it could have been somebody who might have inherited under the will.
Anybody.
In one case, the second doctor consulted had a family connection with the doctor who asked for the opinion.
And that's pretty common across all kinds of industries. It's amazing to see the way that family advantage plays out in the professional world. But in this case, it's pretty alarming. I wish there was a way to get stats on family connections among medical professionals and the influence that has on their ethical views.
Yeah, although of all the studies that need to be done, I think that's kind of low on the priority list.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much other stuff that needs to be studied before that.
Oh yeah, of course there is.
Yeah, of those who asked for MAID, 65% got it. So people are, when the media comes out with these articles and say, no, people can't get MAID, that's not accurate.
That's at least
right. The 3 most common reasons euthanasia was not administered were 1, that the person was not eligible, and that was the case for 246 people, or 37%. The person did not, the person died before the evaluation process was completed or before euthanasia could be administered, and that was the case for 224 people.
Oh gosh, some doctor missed $50.
Yeah, or 33%. Or the person withdrew request. smaller category that seemed like it would have been similar, and I'm not sure why they separated out a separate group, but anyway. 40% of those approved were euthanized within 10 days of making the request. So people say, oh, it takes so long. No,
No.
there's supposed to be a reflection period.
But there is a provision in the law that if it's an emergency, the doctor could jump the 10 days.
Right, so there are 40% of emergencies.
So it's kind of, let's say,
Is that really
normal.
Yeah, an emergency is normal, I guess. The Régie d'assurance maladie du Québec reports that 682 doctors billed for services related to medical assistance in dying. According to the Collège des médecins du Québec, of the 23,478 doctors registered in the province, 180 they performed euthanasia in 2008.
That doctor who
Specialized.
are specialized in it, and do many of those.
Right, and most of the doctors have done one or two,
which was the provision at the beginning. So wide range of those people support that, but there is a kind of that doctor existing.
Yeah. Okay, so if there is a takeaway message from this report, in our opinion, it would probably be that the number of euthanasia deaths is increasing rapidly, and the procedures are still handled in a slipshod manner. We still wouldn't get on an airplane with a 1% chance of crashing and a 3% uncertainty factor.
Yeah, you book for Paris and you ending in Madrid.
Yeah. And while Madrid is a perfectly nice place to go,
yes.
Okay, our second topic. A man says a psychologist encouraged him to euthanize his wife. On November 2nd, TV News ran a story about a psychologist who reportedly advised a Montreal man to kill his wife who had a terminal illness. Sir Simard sought professional help after his wife, Miranda Edwards, was diagnosed with cancer. Ms. Edwards was, quote, determined to fight it, unquote, saying, quote, I want to live. I want every medical intervention possible. I will do every treatment possible to stay alive, unquote.
This person wants to live.
Right.
It's obvious.
Right. Monsieur Simard said the psychologist, quote, told him to overdose his wife with morphine she had been prescribed for her pain, unquote. After hearing this during the session, Mr. Simard recorded the rest of the session on his phone. The recording captured the words, quote, at one point it will be a dose too much and she just won't wake up. It's the best thing that could happen, really. She won't be suffering anymore. Yeah. She'll be in a better place.
Yeah, the best thing that it could happen. Did you know somebody who came back from the other side?
That other place?
Yeah, we doesn't know whatever happened. There is believing, but it's only believing.
Right, and it seems a little unprofessional, in my humble opinion, for a psychologist to be saying she'll be in a better place.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a kind of polite formula when people is already there, but not before.
Yeah. The psychologist's identity cannot be revealed since the person has not been charged with a crime. Mr. Simard is horrified by the professional's reaction.
We are too.
Yet he made a distinction between medical assistance in dying and the action he was counseled to take. Quote, that's not assisted suicide, that's murder. I will not murder my wife. If Miranda voices any wish about wanting to die, I will respect her wishes. Miranda has never voiced that she wants to pass away, unquote.
And did the psychologist not know how Miranda felt? And does her husband not realize that respecting a change in her wishes means remaining passive in the face of her suicidality?
I think the psychiatrist to just look at the health of Mr.,
Yeah.
not the health of Mrs.
Mr. Simard and Ms. Edwards filed a professional complaint against the psychologist, but were notified that the person had retired. If the psychologist begins to practice again, an investigation may be opened. So far, police in Montreal and Gatineau have refused to act. The couple is disappointed in the response.
Police do nothing, and
Yeah.
they are not equipped for doing anything about it.
Right.
They doesn't receive any amount of money to do something like that. They doesn't have any
Training.
training. They doesn't have any team who are booked to do that. Nothing happened over the police.
And we already know what Health Canada said in the monitoring standards. They said they were going to leave these matters up to local law enforcement,
Right.
when, for lack of a better word, it's completely out of their wheelhouse.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Their disciplinary response they received, and they may consider bringing a civil action. So,
I wish them luck.
yeah, and this is just one more case added to the many other cases that we're hearing about, and we want people to come forward with their stories of being pressured
Please.
to sign do not resuscitate orders, etc. Okay, so if you want more information about the topics that we discuss here, you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. Visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks to Taylor also for helping out, and we will
Thank
see
you,
you
Taylor.
next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.